Ladies and gentlemen, when all hope is lost, it is not the failure of life. It is life's way of knocking at your door with the urgency of a storm. You see, hope is not an eternal flame. It is a flickering candle, delicate and dependent on condition. When that candle goes out, the world seems dark and silent. But this darkness is not an end. It is the doorway to a space where your mind's stories cannot reach. In those moments when hope deserts you, the very foundation you believe to be steady collapses. But here is the secret. What crumbles outside is merely the shell. The strength you seek was never in those external shells, it's within you, in the silent core untouched by chaos. So when everything around you is lost, look inward, for there lies the source of unshakable existence. Pain and despair are not enemies to be defeated. They are profound teachers. They break down your false notions, your delicate dreams built on illusions. When hope disappears, it strips away what is not real, and what remains is the raw, untamed truth of life. This truth can be frightening, yet it is the most honest and liberating experience you'll ever have. In that space, surrender is not defeat, it is the most powerful form of acceptance. Not to give up, but to stop resisting the flow of existence. When you surrender to what is, you open the door to a new possibility, a dimension beyond hope and fear, where life moves effortlessly, where you are not a victim but a participant in the cosmic play. Remember, life's darkest nights contain the seed of your transformation. When hope is lost, it is not the end of your journey. It is the invitation to be reborn into a deeper reality, where your being is not dependent on what the world gives or takes, but simply is. Whole, free and eternal. So when all hope is lost, it's bad. Instead, turn inward, embrace the silence and know that this loss is the beginning of your greatest discovery. Hope is something that we create in our minds. It is not a physical thing that you can hold or see. Instead, it is an idea, a feeling that arises when we look toward the future and expect something good to happen. Because it is built in the mind, hope depends entirely on our thoughts and beliefs. It is shaped by what we want and by the stories we tell ourselves about how life should be. Since hope lives in the realm of thoughts, it is inherently fragile. Our minds can easily be swayed by the changes and uncertainties of life. When circumstances shift or when events unfold differently than we expect, the fragile thread of hope can break or fade away quickly. This fragility is a reflection of how much hope depends on external situations and the way we interpret them. Hope is also fleeting because it is temporary. It arises in moments of desire and expectation, but it often dissolves when those expectations are not met. When we cling to hope, we do so because we want relief from difficulty or suffering. But once relief seems distant or impossible, hope slips away, sometimes leaving a deep sense of emptiness or despair behind. Because it is both fragile and fleeting, hope can sometimes give a false sense of security. We believe that hope will carry us through hardship, but it can disappear just when we need it most. This unpredictability makes hope an unreliable anchor in the storms of life. It is important to recognize that relying solely on hope can set us up for disappointment. Hope is a human invention born out of our desire for control. We hope because we want to influence the future or lives in a way that feels better or safer. This desire is natural, but it also shows how much we resist the unknown and the unpredictable. In this resistance, hope becomes a way to protect ourselves from fear and uncertainty. Yet because hope depends on what we imagine will happen, it is limited by our vision. We hope for certain outcomes, but the universe does not always follow our plan. The gap between what we hope for and what actually happens can cause suffering. This is why hope, while comforting, is also a delicate thing that can easily break when reality challenges it. Understanding hope as a fragile and fleeting construct does not mean rejecting it completely. Rather, it invites us to see hope with clarity. We can appreciate the light that hope brings without becoming blind to its limitations. When we hold hope lightly, we remain open to whatever life brings rather than becoming trapped in expectation. Ultimately, hope is a part of the human experience, but it should not be mistaken for the foundation of our well-being. True stability comes from something deeper than hope, something that is not dependent on conditions or desires. Recognizing the nature of hope allows us to move beyond it and find strength that is not shaken by what comes or goes. True strength is not something that comes from the outside world. It is not found in possessions, status or the approval of others. External circumstances can change at any moment. They are uncertain and often beyond our control. Because of this, any strength that depends solely on what is outside ourselves is unstable and temporary. Real strength is rooted deeper within the core of our being. When we look around, it is easy to believe that strength means power over others or success in life's challenges. However, this kind of strength is superficial. It can be lost as quickly as it gained because it depends on things that can be taken away or changed. People may praise us or give us respect today, but tomorrow everything can be different. External strength is like a castle built on sand. It looks impressive but cannot endure storms. True strength comes from knowing and trusting ourselves beyond any situation. It is the quiet confidence that remains even when the world seems to collapse. This strength does not need applause or validation because it is anchored in something far more profound than the surface of life. It is the power to remain steady and calm, no matter what chaos surrounds us. This inner strength arises when we stop seeking security outside and begin to look inward. It grows through self-awareness and understanding our own mind and emotions. When we learn to face fear, pain and uncertainty without running away or being overwhelmed, we cultivate a deep reservoir of strength. This strength is not loud or showy. It is a silent force that guides us through the darkest moments. External circumstances are always changing, but what lies within remains constant if we nurture it properly. Our inner world is like a wellspring of peace and resilience that does not depend on good luck or favorable conditions. When we develop this inner foundation, we are no longer vulnerable to the ups and downs of life. We find freedom from needing the world to be a certain way in order to feel strong. True strength also means accepting life as it is without resistance. It is the ability to face reality clearly and to act wisely from that place of clarity. This acceptance does not mean giving up or becoming passive, rather it means having the courage to engage with life fully, without being controlled by fear or desperation. It is strength born from presence and awareness. This inner power is accessible to everyone, regardless of their situation. It does not require wealth, influence or physical ability. Anyone can cultivate it by turning inward, observing their own mind, and learning to be steady in the face of life's challenges. It is a strength that grows through patience, practice, and willingness to face oneself honestly. In the end, true strength is the foundation upon which all lasting happiness and peace are built. When we rely on the world outside, we build on shifting ground. But when we cultivate strength within, we become unshakable. This strength is a quiet flame burning steadily through every storm, a source of power that cannot be taken away because it belongs to the essence of who we are. Pain and despair are often seen as enemies, things to avoid or get rid of as quickly as possible. Yet, if we look deeper, these difficult emotions are some of the most profound teachers we can encounter in life. They force us to confront realities we might otherwise ignore. Without pain and despair, there would be no push to grow beyond the surface of our existence. When we experience pain, it demands our attention. It shakes us from complacency and calls us to wake up. The discomfort is like a signal, pointing out what is not working or where something needs change. This can be painful to accept, but it also opens a doorway to understanding ourselves and our lives more clearly. Without pain, many important lessons remain hidden. Despair, though deeply unsettling, brings a kind of clarity that hope cannot provide. When we are in despair, the illusions that usually keep us comfortable begin to fall away. We face the raw truth of life's impermanence, uncertainty, and our own vulnerability. Stripping away of illusion is necessary for true wisdom and transformation to begin. Pain and despair also teach us humility. They remind us that we are not invincible or in control of everything. In surrendering to these experiences rather than resisting them, we develop patience and acceptance. These qualities help us to move through suffering without becoming overwhelmed or losing ourselves. Through pain, we come to understand the nature of attachment and expectation. Much of our suffering arises because we cling to what we want or resist what we fear. Pain shows us the limits of these attachments and invites us to loosen our grip. This process is difficult but liberating, as it helps us find freedom from the endless cycle of craving and aversion. Despair can also deepen our compassion. When we have faced our own suffering fully, we are more able to empathize with others who are hurting. This empathy connects us and reminds us that pain is part of the shared human experience. It breaks down barriers and creates a sense of unity rather than isolation. These teachers, pain and despair, do not come to punish us but to awaken us. They call us to step beyond superficial happiness and face the deeper dimensions of life. In learning from these experiences, we develop resilience and a profound understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Ultimately, pain and despair are essential because they push us toward transformation. They invite us to move beyond our comfort zones and discover a more authentic, grounded way of being. When we embrace these teachers with courage, we find that they are not just suffering, but also the doorway to wisdom, strength and peace. Surrender is often misunderstood as a form of weakness or giving up. Many believe that to surrender means to stop trying, to quit the fight, or to lose control over their lives. However, our true surrender is quite different from this misconception. It is not about resignation or defeat. Rather, it is a conscious choice to struggling against what is. Oh. Resistance is the root of much suffering. When we resist life situations, we create tension and inner conflict. Our minds want things to be different from how they are, and this causes frustration and pain. Resistance makes us rigid and trapped in our own expectations, limiting our ability to respond wisely and effectively to life's challenges. Letting go of resistance through surrender does not mean Instead, it means accepting reality as it is without adding layers of judgment, anger or denial. This acceptance creates space within us, a space where clarity and peace can arise. When we stop resisting, we open ourselves to see things more clearly and to act from a place of calm and wisdom. Surrender is the process of allowing life to unfold without unnecessary interference from our fears and desires. It requires courage, because it asks us to trust in something greater than our limited understanding. In surrender, we recognize that we cannot control everything, and this realization frees us from the exhausting struggle to force outcomes. When we practice surrender, we also cultivate patience. Instead of rushing or forcing change, we learn to wait and observe with a steady mind. This patience is not passive waiting but an active state of presence where we are fully engaged with life even as we allow it to move at its own pace. Surrender leads to freedom. When we stop fighting against life, our energy is no longer wasted on resistance. We become lighter and more flexible, able to navigate difficulties with grace. This freedom is a strength, not a weakness. It is the power to flow with life's currents rather than be broken by them. Failure, relationship with pain, failure, loss. Instead of being overwhelmed by these experiences, we meet them with openness and acceptance. We discover that surrender is not a loss of self, but a deeper connection with our true nature, which remains steady regardless of externals. In the end, surrender as letting go of resistance is a path to inner peace and resilience. It allows us to move through life's ups and downs with balance and equanimity. Through surrender, we find that we are not victims of life's storms, but participants in a larger unfolding process that is always evolving beyond our control. Life's darkest moments often feel like the end of everything. When we face intense suffering, loss or despair, it can seem as if there is no way forward. Yet these moments carry a hidden potential that is not visible when we are overwhelmed by pain. Within the depth of darkness lies the seed of transformation and rebirth, waiting to be discovered. Darkness strips away all the distractions and illusions that usually keep us comfortable. In those moments, we cannot hide behind our usual stories or defenses. We are forced to confront the raw reality of life and our own vulnerability. This confrontation, though painful, clears the ground for something new to emerge. Transformation begins when we stop resisting the darkness and start allowing it to be part of our experience. Instead of fighting or running away, we lean into the discomfort and look for what it is trying to teach us This openness to suffering creates a fertile space inside, where the old patterns can dissolve and new ways of being can take root. Rebirth is not about returning to who we were before. It is about becoming something deeper and more authentic. After the darkness, there is a chance to emerge with greater clarity, strength and wisdom. This process often changes how we see ourselves in the world, shifting us from fear and limitation to acceptance and possibility. The seed of transformation is often tiny and fragile at first. It may appear as a small insight, a moment of peace or a subtle change in perspective. But with patience and care, this seed grows, slowly nurtures new thoughts, feelings and actions that lead to lasting change. Life's darkest moments also teach us humility and compassion. When we have faced deep suffering ourselves, we become more understanding of others' pain. This empathy creates connection rather than isolation and helps us remember that no one is alone in their struggles. Transformation and rebirth are processes not… They require time, courage and willingness to stay present with whatever arises. Sometimes the journey is slow and difficult, but it is always moving toward growth and healing, even if it is not immediately obvious. In the end, life's darkest moments are not just trials to endure, but invitations to awaken. They hold the potential to break us open and reveal the true depth of who we are. When we embrace these moments with openness and trust, we find that the seed of transformation within them blossoms into a new beginning, a rebirth into a fuller, richer life.